with the beautiful music we have just heard, I would like to welcome you, dear friends, and book lovers. This is our 14th edition of Virtually Yours. We are delighted to have you with us today, and we are also equally delighted to have with us the author today, Oswald Levat, and we also have with us Edwig Dro. She's our big boss and our sister and our mama, and we hope that all of this will be compatible. Anyway, a warm welcome to all of you to Virtually Yours. We are delighted to have with us as our guest today Osvalde Lewat, and I will now give the floor to our friend Detlef Pfeiffer. And our dear friends who listen in French, you can listen in the original version, of course, without using interpretation. And once again, repeated in French, that people can also listen on the original or on the interpretation channel in the respective language. Thank you very much, Detlef. I think we can now continue, and this time I would like to invite Edwig now for our interview with Oswald Levat. Thank you very much to Hippolyte Detlef. I am very happy to be with you, and a warm welcome to you all for the 14th edition of Virtually Yours. And we have two languages today, as you have heard. We have English and French today, and later we will also have Portuguese. Oswald is a photographer. She has also done many documentaries on war and also on prisoners. Oswald has been awarded the Panafricain Great Prize of Literature, and her latest romance is called Aquatics. Good afternoon. I am delighted to have been invited by the Goethe-Institut, and I'm happy to be with you all in Virtually Yours. Why have I chosen romance as my form of literary expression? Because I can then tell stories, I can also share experiences, and I can share it with the whole world. But nevertheless, I was intimidated. In the beginning, I was shy. I started to write at the age of 11 years, and I also had a look at journalism and practiced it. I wrote my first book, and I also thought about making films, photographs, and to also finally decide that I wanted to be a writer. And I chose romance because romance is something very deep. It is very deep because it is also a form of interiorization of personalities, of characters, and it is something in the imaginary. And at the same time, I'm very realistic. I also made documentaries, and it was a pleasure. But I was always confronted with that reality, and romance is something that enables me to break all those barriers and to go into the imaginary, to see the free sky, and to write about it. So thank you very much. My first romance also I read and I started to write at the age of 11. I had my uncle, and this romance was very short, just a few lines. And he said to me, at least the title is very good. And he did not say that the rest was bad, but he put it that way. We all spoke about this romance. I do remember it, and definitely you are a personality associated with literature, and it was about emotions. It was also about married life, about relationships, and also what was at the heart of people. And we could feel that reading the romance. You also spoke about homosexuality. And why did you choose all those subjects? So in this romance, there are different characters, and we have a central character, married and sometimes emotional, then two children, a married couple, then a best friend who is suddenly imprisoned. And we also have to make sure how we deal with issues, and how can we also make sure that all these characters are understood well in the romance. And then adolescence. Uh, uh, I had a very strong friendship with the books of Hermann Hesse, and I also had a very strong relationship with someone who was like my brother. And I also wrote about a story of friendship at that time, and also people who were confronted with life every day. And as they were growing in life, they also embarked on experiences and became more mature personalities in this romance. So friendship in this book is something that creates a certain form of movement. And you also wrote about that, how it moved people. It is very much attached to the character of the woman. It is really a romance about love, about two people who love one another. It is absolute love. They chose love, and they have very strong feelings for one another, and they are also linked up in friendship. And it is also a form of melody that runs through the book between friendship, love, and these two personalities are linked melodiously together. It is important to also see that. And why did it happen in Cameroon? Or it could also have been in Ivory Coast, in Côte d'Ivoire. I did not want to create a situation in which people read a romance and that they then later on say, well, this is not really how it was in that country at that time, that the reality was different. So I grew up in Cameroon. I was born in an African country, and realities are very similar in African countries, and also this living space is contrasted in the same way, and we would also find that in sub-Saharan Africa, but beyond Africa, one could say that the space is linked to that. All the topics are also linked up with life in Europe or in the United States. So I also had refusal in the moment, in the beginning, and there was also a story inside the story, and I also wrote about that, and very often I was very happy to see myself also in the Figaro or in other newspapers mentioned as a writer. So why did you feel that it was a rejection? I cannot really say that. I think it was an ironic statement of myself. I think that life, destiny, and how things are organized are something that flow through this romance. And the first sentence I heard was, this romance is about myself. That was the first comment I had from a French reader. She said to me, I am white. I have never been in Africa, neither in sub-Saharan Africa, but I can imagine that this story really touches me and reaches me, even though I've never been in Africa. So it is very much about what other people feel and how they are reached through your story. Just a small extract. I will do a short reading and I will put on my glasses. I will read page 118. It is an extract. The husband says to her that his friend had been arrested and put in prison, and that he would like to intervene. But his social position was also mentioned in that context. But in any way, he thinks about his friend Sammy. On this day, I sat down on the bench and I said, I no longer am the same man. And there has been so much change, and I had to laugh about it. I could also say that I feel a lot of pain and also that love had been forgotten and that days had become very difficult and sour. And you don't know. It is about roles. It is about solitude. And in those days, we could feel what was coming. We also had to feel how we were landing together and how we could go through all that, days of promises, days of rejection, and many other days. And we also have to live in our culture every day. We have to see how we can also act as protectors, how we can also give one another freedom. This was too beautiful. I think it is very, very beautiful. It will also be beautiful in other languages, I am sure, but I think it's most beautiful in French. So this friendship and this liking for one another was something that is close to my heart. Also, his reflections on feelings, on being accepted or rejected, and how things happen in daily life, and that the innermost feeling is not affected by that. And finally, we also see that people no longer care. So she came from a believing family and a Christian family, but also full of taboos, of interdictions. So out of that community and group, she came, and that she got married to the first man she knew. So that is also something that can be heard in her all the time. And then homosexuality, and that she never even mentioned that word. And she also realized that it was a theory, something that was very far from her, and that she never was confronted with that question. And she could no longer deny it. She was confronted with that question, even though it was a disturbing question. It was no problem for her. And she also wanted her friend to continue lying to her that he was not homosexual, but in fact he was. And they were no longer one. And they also continued and lived together until they no longer could. It can be a husband, a friend, or a child. It can happen in daily life, and we deal with that without asking questions, and questions about difficult choices. If a daughter says to you, "Will you be there for me, whatever may happen?" We have to also speak about sacrifices when people are put in prison, or if they suddenly are homosexual. So that is something very special in this book. And also the letter that was written is interesting to read, and also that love was no longer something that was possible. They could no longer make love because of all those occurrences. So a few weeks ago, Aquatics was published in France. It is available, and it is also a partial face of the portrait that I would like to convey in this book, and also more about the role of the African artist, a committed artist, and to write a classic text as it is usual. I created those personalities in my romance, and that I also wrote about revolting characters. And when writers spoke about that previously, I thought, no, for me that would not be possible. Everybody will be beautiful and loving and so on. And that I could not do that. So Samuel presents himself like an African artist and makes projections on us Africans and asks anthropological questions and others, and that can be read. And then the question, are you committed or not? I think that African artists have the right to be committed to something. I think we have the right to do what you can read in the text about Samuel, who also had a friendship with an Italian contemporary artist. And there is also a story about them and their relationship in the book. What I deeply think is that we all have our own spheres. Artists, my personal view about politics or other things in life also express that freedom I mentioned, and sometimes it is done in a very discreet and even shadowed way, but I think we have the right to write about that, and to also write about these associations in politics, about protest marches. And the space of art gives freedom to visions, to imaginations, and also to commitment. And I think that the influence of art should be cut. Also in the book Aquatics, you can read more about that, and also about personal subversions or about intellectual versions and imagination. We have to see the artistic commitment as the main motivation. So I would also like to respond about this issue of commitment. You described it. You described commitment as something that needs to be defined more precisely. When I speak about other views, I'm speaking about Occidental views and sometimes opinions about, say, French or Spanish writers about homosexuality, and those who would see themselves as victims in such relationships, and also femininity, and that is also a subject that occurs in my romance. It is something about the friendship. It is not something that is hidden. It is part of the friendship, and these personalities, and in association with women, also evoke the question, why should homosexual relationships be confined to miserable, shabby places? Why not in more beautiful places? In Ivory Coast, we also deal with that, and we also have to see how we deal with that. I have noted the 4th of May and also the date of elections that comes up in the book. I will now read an extract. The romance starts on the 4th of May. There are urbanization works underway, and her husband comes back that he would also like to work in the electoral committee. He thinks it's an excellent possibility to become a politician for the country, and also for everything that happens in public. So it is on the 4th of May, and he hears that his mother will be displaced. And all those who have not read the story yet will also ask, why does it start on the 4th of May? I am on page 32 of the romance. My mother has left, and she left with dignity and honor. And we were at the graveyard of my mother, and we also spoke about honor, dignity, peace, and everything that was grotesque. And we also spoke about death and how one prepares for death, why death should be celebrated. We have to be respected, admired, and she worked hard also to build the village. After the death of my mother, I also thought about my husband's mother and how she actually came from Zimbabwe. I thought about what we had to drink, beer, champagne, other things, what we ate. And on those days, I saw that it came to my mind that we could also see together that there was rejection. I felt a little bit lost. My head was full of all those thoughts, and we were standing at the graveyard of my mother, and we were proud of her. My mother preferred red wine. That is what I remembered. And that came to my mind at her graveyard. And also all the things which had never happened. I saw a disproportionate feeling between what my mother was and also what nobody understood about her. even I did not. And I will stop the reading here. Thank you very much for the reading. When I read the book, I could feel that she tried to flee something. It was about souvenirs, about memories. Yes, it was a vision that certainly applies if we imagine building blocks which are put up in order to build a more stable life. And there are certain criteria to be realized. She always steps back from herself, even in determination. She also has certain limitations in terms of her family life and also her patriarchal feelings, which she cannot express. And the word homosexuality is something that then comes out in her, and even her vocabulary. She is a teacher, but her vocabulary then becomes of a stronger nature, more patriarchal, more masculine in that sense, stronger. And normally she is very conventional, and everything she does corresponds to the norm. She wants to be married. In her country, a woman is recognized when she is married and has children. So that goes with appearances, and she plays that role very well. Yes, that is how I understood her in her own space. That is also the force that contains her in her daily life. And how she can do what she wants to do for other people. And she distributes also money to some people. There is a scene about that, yes, about her giving money to others. And we can explore the reality a little bit. There are politicians and they distribute also a lot during public ceremonies, so that they leave the impression that they do something for fragilized people. And then also about pornography, about the distribution of money and the distribution of wealth. And her husband is stuck in a system of public wealth, and she thinks that maybe equality should be achieved by distributing money. That is why she does that. And also to have a health system which works, that people can go to hospitals free of charge. In other words, that there are social services available, and to also show how the different members of the population live, and how money is distributed, and obviously public money is distributed by her. Sammy also distributed money, ironically, and on the 4th of May. And the 4th of May is an important political day. She refuses suddenly to do that, perhaps because she no longer wanted to live in that contrast. Perhaps she no longer wanted to be in that role. And also the universities brought in, sub-Saharan universities, where people then also say, no, thank you, I'm not interested in that money. And Sammy is confronted with that. He comes back and he said to her, why are you not carrying on with the distribution of money? And he said it should go to social structures, to fundamental structures of the population. If she could not think about solidarity in public, what also came to my mind was that finally we in Africa have health systems or social security or unemployment, also pension systems, which are not always up to level. And Africans have African tax, and family is taxing everyone all the time. There is no choice. And we have to also speak about that. We read it in the Romans, that Samuel was not happy and asked her why she was not there and did not carry on. So we have a portrait of different women in this Romans, which starts on the 4th of May. Many other women. They are just mentioned by their function and not by their name. So all these different women appear, and for example, they are all fighting against the patriarchal system. They are fighting with that, and the 4th of May, as I said, is a date which has importance for us, and we also saw that her husband had also a need of social and family comfort, and needed also comfort with regard to his work. And the 4th of May is an important day. It is also a silent force that flows through the story, and there are several female characters in the story. And the 4th of May is not the day of African women, but all these women are portrayed in their singularity, in their society as they are. So this is what features around the 4th of May, and also the feelings of admiration, of rejection, of scandalism. And she also mentions what she wants to do. She divorces, she leaves with someone and feels free, free in a way that she has paid for her freedom. And she also had the courage to go very far. And then there are more conservative women with masculine domination, and they try to also go forward in their life as women. And she tries to be very strong, not to cry. And in African societies, we see often that mothers are conditioned and are also marked by their feeling of being oppressed, and there is a big boss, and they are subordinate. And if there were more women who could say no to this patriarchal system, then perhaps it would be different. When we speak about the 4th of May, and it is difficult to live with the 4th of May in the sense that all the characters are close to one another and are ready, after all, to maintain appearances in their family life, even though they feel differently. It is also like this here or in Europe. I think that the real question for everyone is, how can we renounce that what we have to what we are? we are sometimes ready to divorce, and we have to divorce in order to be ourselves. It is a very difficult way of life, but if we are in a group of women who are maintaining their status quo, then it becomes always a bit difficult. Are we ready to pay the price to be who we are and for our freedom? We can go on to the third reading. On page 173, it is an extract of the Romans, and Jama had a violent situation with her husband, and they speak about what marriage is about. And Jama speaks, and she speaks about her social class. So we are not regressing. My father also has put me on my way, and you do not have the right to forget who you are. How are you ending up in this situation? I spoke to your husband, and he said, are you now compromising me? Are you now looking at me as someone who is outside your class? And we should be there for one another, serve and help one another when we need one another. And we are praying to the Holy Father, to Jesus Christ, to the Holy Mary, to all saints, and to see how we can carry on. We are young, and we have children. They need an education. They need to be raised. And we also need something that is called the body. You have to choose in silence and with discretion what you really want. I will read that again. I think that what you wrote about society and about everything that is looking for freedom, and that the body plays a big role in that relationship. I think it's important for the woman. Exactly. And finally, so on the 4th of May, she's taking her life in her own hands. Now, the last question. In his letter, Sammy is also a bit upset. now was semi-upset or not. I think that in my desire of artistic creation, we have to see also feelings like rage, and committed or not, was this character described by me like in a film or on photos. I am trying to clear the imagination about him. So this is how I describe him. I'm trying to exteriorize him and to also see how we can unchain him. So we have to look at it in this way. The artist. So this book, the Aquatics, will certainly also deserve a prize, but the book mainly confronts ourselves with ourselves. And one other question and last one. I don't think there are problems with the exteriorization. First of all, thank you, Oswald, for the Aquatics. I have not read the romance yet. I don't know if it is possible to translate this romance after the great prize of Panafrican literature. I understood that there will be a translation quite soon. And it is expected by many that the book will be translated. So on Virtually Yours and with the Goethe-Institut in Abidjan, we had the possibility to see this book and to hear more about it together with the author Osvalde. Thank you very much to Edwig and also to Oswald. It was really extremely interesting to hear your passionate and enriching words about your book. And you really deserve the great prize for African literature. Thank you to you too. It was indeed a pleasure to share these few moments with you. And I hope that we will meet again very soon. And thank you for the support for my literature and also for my readings and also for your interest to read African authors. Thank you very much. Now we have reached the point in time where we can pass on some of your books to our friends. There are some friends connected on the internet with us. We should also have music. So I have them here. I will mix those little papers a little bit. And I draw the first name. Gilbert Ngueno. Gilbert Ngueno. He is the first prize winner. We will contact you. And the second prize winner, Ndegwa Nguru. And the third prize winner, Moyo Rureko. She is connected and will be contacted. And Tabile Ketier. We will contact you. Lena Amwalawa. So we have 5 prize winners in this edition. Thank you very much. We will contact you all and we will send the books to you. So it is now past 7 and 6, depending on where you are. Once again, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to spend time with you on Virtually Yours. And thank you for your interest in my literature. And the book will be published in an African edition called Tiniba around September, November this year. And it will be accessible to the African public and local public in Africa. And at the moment, the book is sold as at a European price set in France. And the next Virtually Yours will be in Portuguese. Thank you very much to all. Thank you to each and everyone. Thank you very much to Edwig and Oswald and to Detlef. Thank you very much. Just a few words for the prize winners. Kindly address your correspondence and send us your address. Thank you to Detlef and to all of you. I wish you a very nice weekend, and we will continue and we can listen to each other on Virtually Yours. Thank you very much.